My name is Fadwa Wazwaz, and wanted to talk about a dream that I've had in the past. And actually, there's more than one. One is that when my father passed away, the night before he passed away, I had this dream that I was serving coffee, and people came over to our home, and I started serving them coffee. And it kind of was a disturbing dream, but then the next day, the following day, my dad passed away. And it's custom when people pass away, according to our tradition, is people come like to pay their respects, and they're served black coffee. Years later, a few years later, I kept having a similar dream. And it was, again, me going up a set of stairs, but there were other things that were happening with this dream that was different than the other dream. But again, you get to the very, very top and you're making coffee. And as you're making coffee, again, there is this exchange of, this is mine. This belongs to me. And it kind of disturbed me, not so much about going up the stairs or getting tired or again serving coffee. I wasn't sure if this dream was aimed at me, like that you're going to be passing away soon, or it was at my mom because my mom suffered a stroke and I was her primary caretaker. So I was trying to figure out how to understand the dream. Like I said, there were other things happening before you got to the stairs, as you went up to the stairs, things that were just people having conversations. Some you saw their faces, some you did not see their faces, but you're wondering why these individuals. You're not thinking about why would they show up in your dream. And just the type of conversation that they were having: mockery, ridicule, attacks. And as things unfolded, the very same, like I said, some you saw their faces, some you did not. It started to kind of unfold. And as it unfolded, some of the words that you heard in your dream, you started to see on their profiles. The mockery, the shade, the insinuations, and exactly as you saw it in the dream. These were the people who were hidden. And you started to look at those. You saw their faces and you realized they were also saying the exact same thing that they were saying in the dream. So things started to unfold, and you started to see people that you couldn't make out their faces. Now you're able to make out their faces. People that you had no knowledge of. In fact, your paths did not intersect until now they intersected. And you're like, it's kind of like seeing into the future. Now you intersected. You had no knowledge of these people, never met them before. Now you meet them and they're throwing shade, insinuation. It's exactly as they were in the dream. So it's not something that you saw that was in your heart. It's something that's going to happen. Because these individuals, you never met them before. You don't know them. But they were saying things that disturbed you. And sure enough, as the dream unfolded, these individuals showed their faces. They became known. That was your moment of when you intersected with them. This is who they are. As you went up those deep steps, you're still not sure, is it myself or is it my mom that is passing away? And the reason, again, the issue of passing away, it has to deal with I had similar dream when my dad passed away the night before, serving coffee, and then he passed away. I mentioned once on Facebook because, I asked one individual and he acted in a way, let's just say that you're trying to reach out in a respectful way, and the individual was responding in a disrespectful way. And you're asking in a respectful way, and he's responding in a disrespectful way. So you try to kind of gain clarification, and he responded in a disrespectful way. So you let the matter go. You turn to God, ask him about the dream, and you came across some lectures. And I believe I shared it once on Facebook. It was about that. There was this, first of all, this arguing back and forth regarding my mom's care. My mom had a stroke, a major stroke, in 2009. I was working really hard to try to make sure she takes her medicine according, that she stays alive. She became weary of life, because she's an extrovert, likes to socialize, likes to express herself. And she became, from the stroke, aphasic. It means she can't speak. She could hear you and understand what you're saying, but everything that she says is gibberish. The only sentence she's able to say that comes out of her mouth is, "There is no God except Allah." That is all she was able to say. And as much as you try to tell people that when they come visit her, to look at her facial gestures and just kind of communicate as though you understand what she's saying. Like, yeah, that's right. I agree with you. Yeah. And to kind of encourage her, even though all you hear is gibberish, to talk. Some individuals would honor that and some individuals would not. And they would make her feel like they cannot understand anything she says. So if she's going, and she's talking and it doesn't come out right, instead of kind of comforting her, saying yeah and share, letting her kind of express herself, they would say, "I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry, I don't understand. You're just not making sense." And so you wanted these visitations reduced because from a mental, emotional, social perspective, they were harming my mother. This led to, again, back and forth fighting between me, immediate family members, and extended family members, and even extended community members who knew my mom. They would visit when you would tell them they cannot visit because it's not healthy for them to visit. It increased her blood pressure, it made her sick. They would still visit, and then they would hype up other family members against you to visit. So this again unfolded for many, many years. It got to the point where you turn the matter to God. And I think what the dream was telling me was to let go. Because one of the things, this is one of the most, we all pray for something, the most intense moment of my life when I prayed and prayed and prayed for something was when she came out of that operating room and she had a stroke. The doctor said, they didn't give her a diagnosis that she will live long. She lived 10 years late, after that diagnosis, but they had assumed within a month or two, given the major stroke that she faced, that she will not make it. We had to teach her how to eat. She had tubes in her, her stomach. Had to teach her how to eat, how to drink, how to use the bathroom, how to raise her arm, how to even comb her hair, how to breathe. She had breathing tubes. She had all type of tubes. Everything, all her bodily functions, tubes. Using the bathroom, she had a catheter. Everything was all tubes. And you pulled these tubes one by one as you trained her and trained her and trained her how to be able to use her, like you train a baby, as I mentioned in my book. Like you train a baby, you have to train her how to walk, how to eat, how to drink, how to use the bath. So you have to do all of that training from scratch, even how to breathe, because they wanted to open up like a hole in her neck and put a breathing tube permanently in her neck. And I refused, and I said I want to work on training her to be able to breathe normally. And you kept training her. And this is like the moment in my life when I made prayer so intensely. I don't think like I've ever prayed that intensely as much as I prayed that intensely for an outcome. And I think I prayed so much that I was holding on to a point of, I felt the dream later on that was telling me to let go, that to God we belong, to God is our final return. Let go. She belongs to me. My mom belongs to God. I believe that was the dream when I turned to God and asked about that part of the dream. A coffee, I was drinking coffee at the time and looking at my mother's picture, and then uh, the coffee fell over her picture. Not too long after that, when I was listening to a video, another video, like, that one finished, another video comes up, and it was again by Ramadan Bhuti saying that how to see death. And I'll have that as in the description. So that was the dream. It was to, I was holding on to such a degree to my mom that God was kind of like helping me accept the coming decision, which is it's time to let go. She belongs to me. And that was the serving of the coffee. And then again, this is mine. To God we belong. To God is our final return. The issue here is that you ask these people for their interpretation. You could have had a respectful, ethical dialogue back and forth. They were not open to do that, which is fine. It's perfectly acceptable to say, because even the Quran teaches you either you judge or you leave them alone. You could say, I don't really trust you. It's perfectly acceptable to say, I think you're a lying, manipulative person, and I don't want to get involved. But when you make that decision, then you have to let go. You can't tell somebody, I don't want to interpret, and then you still interpret, but then you start to play all these, what is the word I'm using here? Permutations of Cade to harm someone. This is an individual who's a sheikh. So you ask, would you like somebody to do this to your daughter? I'm just using the dialogue that Prophet Muhammad, upon him peace and blessings, made. You would not. Would you like someone to do this to your mom? You would not. To your female relatives? You would not. So then why are you treating another person in this manner? And you're a Muslim. Is the only time my life have meaning, value, and respect if somebody who's an Israeli or somebody who's a Zionist harms me? Then you use that kind of like Zionists do, rather than they just say, look, anti-Semitism is the only time my life has meaning and value and respect is if somebody who's a non-Muslim attacks me, harms me, stabs me. Then you're like going to use that in some sort of care report and say, oh, look, Islamophobia has risen. Before you call out members that are not in your community against harming your community, ask yourself, are you willing to call out yourself from harming members of your community? Because I get this feeling that you're very tough on Assad and on Sisi and Mubarak before Sisi and all of these Arab tyrants. And then you claim that here you're supporting these, Obama and all of these other leaders because you support the lesser of two evils. Well, who's a lesser of two evil? Are those dictators in the Muslim countries? Aren't they a lesser evil than Obama? Aren't they the lesser evil than all of these people that you openly sit down with and you talk with and you engage that are bombing, killing, torturing, and raping and engaging in all sorts of crimes against Muslims? Aren't they a lesser evil? Or is it because it's not happening to you, but it's happening to others, then they're the lesser evil? Is it because if you stand to gain and not lose, then they're the lesser evil? Is that what the definition of lesser evil to you means? As long as I'm not harmed, but others are harmed, then that's lesser evil. Is that how you calculate and you measure the lesser evil? By if you stand to win or gain? Or do you have a set of criteria that you compare one leader against another, given how it will impact everyone in the community, not just you? Because it seems to be you have a selfish lens of how you measure the lesser of two evils. In any case, I'd like to bring this to an end. And the end is I reached out to you with respect, and I asked to resolve this with respect, to get your interpretation with respect. You declined. I respected that. Now I ask you to remove yourself with respect. If you are going to be coming at me by sending all of these individuals and then claiming, no, you're not, I know how to test you. And I know the test reached you. Because when you called, I said something very insulting that if it was not you, you would not respond. But you responded because you knew that you were the ones playing these games. And every door you tried to come through, I created a specific test to respond to you. Every single door. You came through these minions, and you came through these minions, and you came through these minions, and I created a test for you. Now, if you didn't respond, then you were not part of these manipulative games, but you did respond. You had knowledge of it. Some of these games, they were very private, like between you and individuals, that the names were not mentioned, what took place was not mentioned, but you left it aside because you wanted to know who would mention these names. But you took note and you watched, and sure enough, you mentioned the names. Nobody said it publicly, not on social media, not to any relative, even my daughter. You just waited to see who would mention these names, and sure enough, you mentioned these names. So you were involved. You were involved. Each and every one of you mentioned every single case and the names and the situation. These were all tests. These were all tests. You're reminding me of the tests, but I'm letting you know that these were tests. The canceled and rescheduled, these were tests. Nobody came to visit me. When I told Tamara Gray, I have to cancel, nobody came to visit me. I wanted to know if she was part of this game. Because she said she was not. Because every single person denied being part of the game. Every single person, even though you tell them. There's no tricks or traps. You gave them information. And you told them, this is what I'm facing. Are you involved? They'd say, no, I'm not involved. You say, okay. You gave them a piece of information. You didn't tell them it was false. All you wanted to do was to test and see. If their heart was clean, they would obviously have this ethical, respectful conversation with you. If their heart wasn't clean, they would take that information and they would share it to individuals that they claimed they're not connected to and they're not involved. Every single test reached all the individuals, making it very clear a group of community members were colluding with each other to tear me down and to spread a smear campaign against me, because they have either misunderstandings or disagreements, or they have the hurt feelings or whatever it is, but they lack the faith, the emotional intelligence, the wisdom, the knowledge, even the ability to turn to God and ask on how to facilitate discussion and resolve these issues. They resorted to oppression, smear campaigns, mental, emotional, social attacks, including spying, manufacturing evidence, manufacturing false witnesses, bringing community members. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to recall from these community members. You're a community member, you were in the community. There were projects going on. What does this have to do? I haven't seen you, engaged you for decades. Why are you popping in now? What am I supposed to recall or remember? It's really hard to continue, but either you act according to the teachings of our faith, or maybe take some time out and work on yourself. Again, either you act according to the teachings of our faith, or step down from positions of leadership, positions of teaching, positions of VIP in our community, and just step aside and work on yourself. Clearly, you lack ethics, you lack faith, and you lack ability to deal with misunderstandings with reason and knowledge. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.